Power of Stillness by A. B. Simpson. Recorded by Kathy Raymer. It was a still small voice, or the sound of a gentle stillness. Is there any note of music in all the chorus as mighty as the emphatic pause? Is there any word in all the psalter more eloquent than the word Selah? Is there anything more thrilling and awful than the hush that comes before the bursting of the tempest, and the strange quiet that seems to fall upon all nature before some preternatural phenomena or convulsion? Is there anything that can so touch our hearts as the power of stillness? Sweet stillness. The sweetest blessing that Christ brings us is the Sabbath rest of soul, of which the Sabbath of creation was the type. There is, for the heart that will cease for itself, the peace of God that passeth all understanding, a quietness and confidence which is the source of all strength, a sweet peace which nothing can offend. There is, in the deepest center of the believer's soul, a chamber of peace, where God dwells, and where, if we will only enter in and hush every other sound, we can hear his still voice. A score of years ago, a friend placed in my hands a little book which became one of the turning points of my life. It was called True Peace, and was an old medieval message. It had but one thought, and it was this: that God was waiting in the depths of my being to talk to me, if I would only get still enough to hear his voice. Stillness challenged. I thought this would be a very easy matter, and so I began to get still. But I had no sooner commenced than a pandemonium of voices reached my ears, 1,000 clamoring notes from without and within, until I could hear nothing but that sound and din. Some of them were my own questions, some of them my own cares, some were my very prayers. Others were the suggestions of the tempter and the voices from the world's turmoil. Never before did there seem so many things to be done, to be said, to be thought. In every direction I was pushed and pulled and greeted with noisy acclamations and unspeakable unrest. It seemed necessary for me to listen to some of them and to answer. But God said, "Be still and know that I am God." The God of stillness. Then came the conflict of thoughts for tomorrow, with its duties and cares. But God said, "Be still." And I listened and slowly learned to obey and shut my ears to every sound. I found after a while that when the other voices ceased, or I ceased to hear and heed them, there was a still small voice in the depths of my being that began to speak with an inexpressible tenderness, power, and comfort. As I listened, it became to me the voice of prayer, the voice of wisdom, the voice of duty. And I did not need to think so hard, but that still small voice of the Holy Spirit in my heart was God's prayer in my secret soul, was God's answer to all my questions, was God's life and strength for soul and body, and became the substance of all knowledge and all prayer and all blessing, for it was the living God himself as my life and my all. We cannot go through life strong and fresh on constant express trains with 10 minutes for lunch. but we must have quiet hours, secret places of the Most High, times of waiting upon the Lord, when we renew our strength and learn to mount up on wings as eagles, and then come back to run and not be weary, and to walk and not faint.